Hello and welcome back to the Work Well podcast. Today in the show, we're talking about engagement. A huge challenge for many organizations of late has been how to keep people and teams engaged while working remotely. There really is no one better placed to discuss this than my guest today, Sheila Greaney. A born and bred Galway woman, Sheila is the site engagement lead for Cisco Systems Galway. Her role is all about the people experience and ensuring those that work there are happy, content, productive, and most of all, maintain a healthy work-life balance. Sheila has worked on many aspects of the Cisco culture and helped enormously to get Cisco Ireland to #1 in the Great Place to Work list in 2016. They're also ranked in the top 3 after that, and they're now back in the #1 position in 2020, something I know Sheila is particularly proud of. Ensuring people are happy and enjoy coming to work is something Sheila takes very seriously. Sit back and enjoy my conversation with Sheila Greaney. Sheila, hello and welcome to the Work Well podcast.
Hey Brian, how are you doing? Good to see you again.
You too. It's been a while. You spoke at our workplace wellbeing event in Galway late last year. Feels like an awful long time ago now at this stage. How are you getting on?
Yeah, considering with everything that happens daily, I'm doing pretty good. I'm adapting as best I can, and I'm using my glass half full attitude to get us through this, because it's just such unprecedented times. I never thought with my job that I would be working from home and able to do it, because obviously my job very much entails engagement, and to me engagement means connecting and touching and feeling the product, and I am now on my own doing none of that. So yeah, it's going well, considering it really is.
Very good. Yeah, so and you're Cisco Galway, and am I right in saying there's about 200 people there?
Yeah,
so you and the entire team are at home, are they?
Yeah, so in Ireland, Brian, we've an office in Dublin, we've an office in Galway. The office in Dublin is made up of sales predominantly, and then the office in Galway is made up of engineers. So all of us nationally are at home since lockdown. We actually went a week before Ireland called a lockdown. Our CEO made the decision to close down all Cisco offices globally. So yeah, all our engineers are working from home, and obviously we designed technology to do this. So no better time to test our product in full whack.
Absolutely. So it's probably been a good thing and a bad thing, I suppose. You've kind of been forced into this situation, but a lot of people, I'd imagine, are now utilizing your own technology. You're utilizing the technology yourselves, of course.
Absolutely.
So there's positives.
Yeah, and we've been really immersed in that experience, because not only are we, for us to be on video every day was the norm. Even in the office, I was on video every day with the States or with the UK or with Europe. Doing it at home was just slightly different, because obviously you don't have your nice office set up and your nice background. So as you can see, my background is in my little small single bedroom with all my signage up to make do. But yeah, we've really had the opportunity with COVID in using our technology, and actually just last week we won an award from Chambers Ireland for the ICU Family Link in UCHG Hospital here in Galway, where we donated all our telepresence units using WebEx to connect basically the patients that were in ICU with their family. So it was a phenomenal opportunity. We never thought we'd get that opportunity in such a pandemic, as well as an opportunity to give back. And then another good example was the national school out in Spaffen. When the schools were shut down, the principal of the school continued teaching via WebEx. So she came on one of our comm sessions to talk to our engineers, just to say thank you. You're designing something that's now needed. The children could still connect, still get educated during COVID, So we've had a fantastic opportunity to really showcase what technology can do,
Fantastic. Yeah, I think I did see that, the ICU example.
Yeah,
that's fantastic, isn't it? So people in ICU were able to speak. Obviously, they can't. Their families can't visit, but they were able to speak with them via.
Yes. So basically, what was set up, and we worked closely with one of our local companies, IBM, who are here in Galway. basically our unit was in the ICU, our telepresence, our DX80s were in the unit which we donated. And then the family were outside of ICU using an iPad on video. But the immersive experience for the patient, because as you can imagine, and we all appreciate, when you do FaceTime on a mobile phone, it's very small. If the person's elderly, they're not going to be able to see this. Whereas when you use one of our DXs, it's like a widescreen TV at the bottom of your bed, and they could see their family clearly, they could talk to their family, and for the family, they could physically see how well their parent or their loved one was looking as well as talking. So it was a really, really feel-good factor, because I think that's the hardest bit for our employees. They've been working from home, they've been listening to it on the news, and everybody's like, how can I help? And when you're working on a piece of technology that's actually in the thick of it, it's a real good feel-good factor. We actually had the nurses on from in ICU in UCHG came on to one of our comm sessions to thank the employees. You know, so that's really, it was really empowering. And I think that's the biggest thing out of COVID, is staying connected, even though it's virtually, you know, still using technology to stay connected.
Yeah, and it's a perfect example of that, of how you can use technology to make that connection.
Exactly.
And it's even before all of this, really, Cisco Ireland was ranked best medium-sized workplace in Ireland on the Great Place to Work list, and actually globally as well. Cisco was recognised for 2019 as the world's best workplace. So, what is it that makes Cisco such a special place to work?
You know, I have to say, and having the pleasure of meeting our CEO, he came to Ireland in 2018, it's from the top down. I mean, if your leaders believe in it, you're going to believe in it. I mean, the ethos to Great Place to Work is all about trust. And if you use that in every day of life, if you use it in your family home, if you use it in your workplace, if you trust your manager, or if your manager trusts you, you're going to achieve success. And it's been very apparent for us at Cisco. We've really invested, and Cisco globally has really invested in the Great Place to Work brand, because it's just allowed us a platform for openness, for honesty, for acting on results. You know, since COVID, we've had a check-in once a month with our CEO and the ELT, the executive leadership team, checking in with all our employees. They've had provided us with doctors on these check-ins, you know, giving them as much COVID information as they can. How do you prevent yourself? How do you watch your immune system? And it just shows they really, really care. And I think that's the core to a Great Place to Work. I mean, all the multinationals in Ireland have phenomenal benefits. You know, there's no one, you can't compare what makes us better than the other. But at the end of the day, they say you don't leave your job, you leave your manager. And I think if you've got good leadership, it really does stand to you. And I think now more than ever, especially at the very early stages of lockdown, we all felt very unsettled, very insecure, a bit like a child, you know, but in our workplace. And so you needed those leadership to reassure you that you're going to be okay. And it's as simple as that. And I think that's, to me, because I work very closely with Great Place to Work in Ireland, and I've learned from my peers in America and in all the different offices and countries that have won Great Place to Work for Cisco. We're all given the same messaging, and it's really come true. And I'm very proud to say, you know, we won it in 2016. We stayed in the top 3, and then this February, just before lockdown, we won it again in 2020. So it's something we're extremely proud on, but it's not just winning. You know, when we started with Great Place to Work, we sat down, a core team of us, and said, well, what do we want to achieve here? Do we want the prize, or do we actually want to make change? And none of us wanted the prize. We wanted to make change. Like, the team isn't made up of leadership in Galway or Dublin. It's actually made up of engineers, of product managers, of people on the ground. And I think we were empowered to do that. They didn't want our senior leadership in Galway to run it. They wanted the people on the ground, because they're the ones that know what's going on and how we can make continuous improvements. And, you know, and that was for me, that was the biggest reason, I think, is I said it from the top down. They just empowered us, you know.
Fantastic. And yeah, I know the team at Great Place to Work Ireland as well, and I know they provide a really excellent survey as part of what they do, so it's really useful for you then to, as you mentioned, you can view where's any trust, where can we build on the trust here, where are we in terms of leadership, where are we in terms of engagement. I'm curious, have you been running any surveys, or how have you kind of been adapting since lockdown then? So you achieved the award based on your pre-COVID work, if you like. What kind of work have you been doing since then to, you know, to keep your team engaged?
So I can tell you, when we got told we were working from home, the first thought and the feeling that came into my heart was anxiety, because my job is about being present. It's about being on site. And I thought, how am I going to do my job? And in March, we normally have our annual sports day. It's a big fundraising event, but it's a great camaraderie. It's a, you know, we have managers versus staff football game. We've table tennis. We've loads of different activities. That was all canned because it literally was, we got called into lockdown the week before. We also then hold a comm session every quarter, and that was due in March, where we all dress up in green. We always create a fun St. Patrick's themed photograph. Another thing I couldn't do, and I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? And I really had to, you know, firstly feel the fear and do it anyways, but also think differently, think virtually, and think how our technology could help us do that. So we held our comm session. I asked all the employees to wear green, children and all, and we did a virtual photograph in green, and I sent it across to the States, because obviously they love to see us, you know, they want to mark our national holiday. But that first comm session was the realization of the vulnerability we were all feeling and the importance of connection. And from that, when I came off that call, I worked with the team of people that we were supposed to have our sports day, going, okay, guys, we can't have a sports day. What are we going to do? And because, again, I keep using technology, the one part of the sports day we always end with is a few pints and a table quiz. And we said, well, we could try doing the table quiz online. So we did, and we ended up hosting the table quiz that evening. And because people weren't having the sports day, they were extremely generous, because they, you know, they donated a little bit more because they weren't signing up for soccer and the different things they would have paid for. And what happened, Brian, after that was just phenomenal. That table quiz, we had such crack, such fun. You know, I turned into a bit of a quiz master from RTE. I tell you, I showed some of them how to do it. We ran the table quiz for 10 weeks, because when we finished it, the guy said, can we have another one next week? And I'm like, oh my God, no. I was exhausted. But you know what? I got a different leader. I got a different manager. I said, you're on this week. You're creating the quiz, because what happened was unique questions came from different people. So every week, sometimes they were easy, sometimes they were way out there, the questions. But we had 10 Thursday nights, especially at the beginning of lockdown, where we did not talk COVID. You know, we had great fun. And over those 10 weeks, we raised €16,000 for charity. So from that kind of experience, Brian, it just morphed into something. The next thing I decided to do was have a virtual barbecue, because if you remember, in May, we had phenomenal weather. And I was like, normally we would have a summer barbecue in July. And I thought, oh God, I have to do something here. Yeah. So I worked with the local provider, the Handsome Burger. They won the Burger of the Year award for Art in Ireland, which was phenomenal. A local bunch of lads, fair play to them. They basically sent out a burger box to all the employees with fresh burgers, our patties, buns, sent it all out. I asked all employees for two things. I said, send me your favorite song and donate €5 to Pieta House. That was our charity of that barbecue. And I created, and now that's what I call Cisco playlist. And again, that evening, we all dialed into WebEx. I was like a radio station. We all played the songs, had requests, and everybody sent me in a photograph of them having their barbecue in the garden. Used these photographs, created a collage, sent it into WebEx Teams, which is a virtual online platform that we use to connect with each other. It's instant messaging, effectively. And everybody felt such good feeling of, oh, there's Sheila with her family, there's Brian with his family. And it made us all realize we're all in this boat. Nobody's out of COVID. We're all in the same boat. So it's just being creative and just being a bit silly, a bit daft. I mean, none of us like this on the cuff video, you know, you're looked at. But you know what? You have to create a bit of humor, and you've got to feel the fear and do it anyways. And because everyone's going to find something funny out of it, or you think, and it was just phenomenal. And again, I think we gave a check to Pieta House that evening. Phenomenal money raised, purely out of having fun, you know. It sounds like great fun, but it's good to see as well that you didn't let your standards drop at all. So the #1 great place to work in Ireland organisation, getting #1 burger in the country as well, the top burger of the year.
couldn't
Yeah.
settle for the second best burger.
And 30
Had to be
degrees
number
of heat,
one.
Brian. 30 degrees of heat in Galway. Seriously, in May, we never get that, you know. So
Yeah.
it just ended up being a phenomenal event. And that's what I've been doing literally for the last 7 months. I've consciously made an effort every month that we're engaged. You know, when it comes to talk about well-being, which is your passion, Brian, you know, that was the other element of the virtuality. Before we were in shutdown, you know, we turned a gym space from a data center into a gym space, and we were bringing in Pilates instructors, boot camp instructors. That's all gone. And now I know I have a cohort of people that are going to really miss that. I mean, we had phenomenal results from when we did that, Brian. People honestly say they've gone from being, you know, obese to the thinnest they've ever been, you know, to their BMI being of an unhealthy number to a healthy number. So I was very conscious for that support. So, you know, rang up the instructors and said, look, how are you fixed about doing it on WebEx?
Yeah.
And they said, look, we'll give it a go. And I thought it was give it a go. It's that attitude of try it, fail, and you learn and move on.
And I was going to ask you, did you do the virtual sport? Did you have a virtual sports day?
We didn't. No, we didn't. Unfortunately, we you know, the table quiz was, and that I suppose are the missing stuff, that actuality, how you do that. And I'll bring it on to what we did come up with in July, Brian. We did a virtual walk. We walked from Galway to San Jose, which is where our headquarters are, for a charity called Cope Galway, which looks after the elderly, the homeless, a very vulnerable cohort of people right now, especially in COVID. We've done a lot of stuff with Cope Galway. It's a charity that's very passionate in my heart as a fellow Galwegian. But basically, I had about 45 employees. I'd asked them to walk 10,000 steps a day. And if we did that for the 31 days of July, we would get to San Jose. I swear to God, Brian, we not only got to San Jose, we nearly got half the way back, you know. And again, I had a competition, and I said the best photograph, the best selfie taken would win a prize. The best steps got a prize, and the best effort of just getting involved. And again, I go back to WebEx, our instant messaging platform called WebEx Teams. It's a platform, I can only, to explain it to people who are not familiar, it's like your WhatsApp. We have it in Teams. We have a group of people, we have the 4 to 5 walkers every day, throwing in their photographs, throwing in a bit of banter, you know, reminding people, oh, I'm out walking today in the rain, get out and walk, motivating each other. And I think that's how we have to use technology, you know, because you can't have that conversation, that coffee doc chat, how you get on with your steps. So now we're using the virtuality. And at the end of that month, we raised €6,500 for Cope Galway, as well as, you know, walking every day, getting
a bit of exercise,
feeling good, having a bit of crack, you know.
And no prizes for guessing what song was top of your playlist for that on your way to San Jose.
Do you want me to sing it?
I won't be singing it anyway, that's for sure. But almost every single initiative that you've mentioned there has had like a give back element, a charity element, and I know that's actually something that's often overlooked by organizations as, you know, a real powerful well-being initiative. It's that if people are actually doing something good for others, they actually feel good themselves. So it's actually a really powerful well-being tool. And it's not just during COVID, if I'm not mistaken. I think you have an interesting statistic that the site, as in the Cisco Galway, has raised over 25k a year on average for the last 12 years for local charities.
And there's only 200 of us on site. It's a very small number of people.
Where does that kind of give back culture come from?
It definitely, it's from the leadership. Like in Cisco, we have what's called Time to Give, and they give us 5 days a year to give back. And that doesn't necessarily mean working in a group. That's your own personal give back. Like when I used my own Time to Give 2 years ago, I actually worked a day in the nursing home where my father was a resident. So I got time with my dad. I got time off work, not affecting my vacation time. And I got time to be a volunteer in a nursing home, working with people that are more vulnerable than me. That initiative has morphed into something phenomenal. So what Cisco did this year, because of COVID, they upped that from 5 days to 10 days, you know, and now I have 10 days. So at the beginning of COVID, I live on my own, Brian. I don't have family. So my family are my friends and obviously my extended siblings and my nieces and nephews. But in COVID, we were all locked down. I live in a very nice small neighborhood, a very mature neighborhood. a lot of vulnerable elderly people who were cocooned. And because I had time to give, I ended up shopping for 4 of my neighbours who were cocooners. Well, I tell you, Brian, the crack we had, because not only was I getting their daily paper and their pint of milk, and they knew exactly what bananas they wanted, the type of oranges they want, I got to know what kind of food they liked. By the 3 or 4 weeks, I used to say, do you want me to do a bit of a secret shop? I used to think of buying, you know, a chicken Kiev, even though they just wanted a plain breasted chicken. Did you ever try a chicken Kiev? The fun I had, but the feeling of giving back, it's empowering. And I think especially in COVID, if you're feeling you're helping someone, it just helps you cope with the anxieties that COVID is bringing. And Cisco has allowed that time to give. I mean, now I have 10 days to support. We all do. And in actual fact, Ireland has ranked the 2nd highest user of time to give for Cisco in Europe, which is a phenomenal achievement. It just shows you how much the employees care about giving back. The generosity, the money we've raised, Brian, I don't think Irish people really realise or give themselves enough credit. We're an extremely generous country. Like I've never asked anyone for a fiver or a tenner. They come forward, and it's in us, it's in our DNA to be kind and especially help the needy. And I even heard that last night on the news. All the feel-good factors that have come from COVID happened in Ireland, and it didn't happen in every other country. Instead of us going to the negative, we very much went to the positive. How can we help you? You know, and I think that's going back to the time to give at Cisco. The leadership, Chuck Robbins, our CEO, he's very clear about, you know, business is business, but giving back goes hand in hand. And if you don't have one, you don't have the other, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And you manage the CSR team as well, don't you? The corporate social responsibility. So there's obviously there's a lot of overlap there, and a lot of the money you're raising there will go towards that. And is that kind of related, all these causes, is that kind of through the CSR arm of Cisco that you're supporting, or do you change that annually, or has it changed because of COVID?
No, nothing has changed in the sense, I mean, I was only talking to one of my CSR team this morning. We're actually on track at the moment to raise more money this year than we've done I'm now 9 years with the company. That to me blows my head, because we're not together. We're doing it all virtually. You know, but it just shows you if you put your mind to it. And I think people feel a bit anxious about the work involved, because there is a lot more work involved virtually. You can't have the coffee talk, or come on, sign up for the walk, or come on now and join the bake sale. You don't have that, you know, but you do have technology. And if you just put your mind to it and send a quick message to someone, will you join my walking team? Will you join the table quiz? Everyone will say yeah, but they won't necessarily come forward as quickly. And I think that's the work involved. And thankfully, I suppose I'm blessed with a very gregarious type of character. I throw myself out there, I ask, and if they say no, they say no. If they don't, you know, so if you get a few people like that on your team that aren't afraid to ask, it's a start of making that, you know, because at the moment we're actually in another step challenge with Irish Life Health. There are health providers, and we're against 44 other companies around Ireland to basically, it's the best of our steps per day per employee with a minimum of 20 people on the team. I'm pleased to say we're in the lead at the moment, Brian, but I have another week and a half to go.
Sure, you wouldn't be competitive about that at all, Sheila.
No. I shouldn't, definitely not. But the fantastic thing about it, Irish Life are donating €10,000 to our chosen charity. So whatever company wins it are going to win €10,000 for a charity just by walking. I mean, it's simple stuff, but it's just, you know, putting yourself out there and trying these things, you know. That's
brilliant. I know the team at Irish Life Health well. Also, they sponsor my event series. They're absolutely wonderful. So whoever wins, that'll have been well deserved. But fingers crossed for Cisco Galway on that one.
Please God, yeah.
I was going to ask if you're struggling to manage or to maintain engagement with your colleagues at this time, but it doesn't feel like you are, perhaps. How are you finding it, or what are you noticing amongst your team at the moment, the remote team?
We have, at the very beginning of COVID, maybe 4 to 5 weeks in, we ran a survey with our employees just to check in, how are you doing? And it simply was. It wasn't to be hugely data driven for any analytics. It was purely to see, how is everyone doing? Are you okay at home? You know, because we take for granted that, you know, I'm in a comfortable home, I live on my own, I have loads of space. You know, a lot of our employees are graduates. They're probably renting a room. They're early in their career. You know, they may not have had a setup where they were working at a kitchen table. So we did that survey at the beginning of COVID. We ran the exact same survey using the same questions again, maybe 4 or 5 months later. The difference in the questions changed a lot, but the overall messaging of missing their colleagues was there. It never changed. Were they missing the office? No, because they know the office is not the office they remember 6 months ago, but they are missing their colleagues. And I really feel that. And we have, you know, that's why my role as site engagement manager has never been as important, because I'm constantly checking in. Like we had 15 graduates start with us 6 weeks ago. You know, they've just come from university now. Thankfully, a lot of them were already interns with us, so they knew the people. But like, to start your very first job, basically in the security or the non-security of your own home, with the laptop box, with this, you know, nobody to help you, it must have been hugely daunting. And you know, I had to do something I'd never done before and hold a WebEx all day for a full day, basically to be that sorry to bother you person. To be that, Sheila, sorry to bother you, but where is the stapler? Sorry to bother you, but where is, how do I log on to this HR tool or that? You know, because that's what's been lost. And I think staying connected using our technology is something I have spent a lot more time doing. But Mercer really enjoyed it, because I think people are really appreciating it. It's showing you care, and all of us are doing that in every walk of life, in every job. Just show you care, and it's received so well, you know.
Yeah, that must be particularly challenging for the graduates that are literally out of university, starting a new role.
Yeah, and even for their career,
it's a daunting challenge at the best of times. You know, you don't know, getting to know your colleagues, and trying to get to know them remotely must be really difficult.
Absolutely. And even for their career path, you know, they're learning. One of our managers said, like, learning by osmosis. You know, even when you think about the way you learned how to make your bed, how did you learn it? No one taught you. You just saw your mother doing that all this time. She tucks it in, she tucks it in. It's the same with engineering, it's the same with job. Sometimes you can just observe somebody in a meeting, how they present a stand-up, how they talk, deliver themselves in a scrum. Those learnings, I feel it's really hard for the early in career, and we really have to I suppose, give them that added looking after, you know, and use the technology. But it is a challenge for them, and it is a concern for us, because right now we're looking at the future of work. You know, what is that going to look like? What is the social fabric going to look like? Are we going to be working 1 day a week in the office, a percentage of us, and the rest of us at home? So it's understanding, and I think you got to understand how people are feeling. And I think now more than ever, people have to feel comfortable in their surroundings, have to feel comfortable that they're not going to be infected, that they're not infecting anyone, that they're doing the right thing. You know, their moral compass is on point. So it's been a challenge, and I think every company has had the same challenge, but we're learning. The government are learning. Everybody's learning. Nobody is proficient at this. Nobody knew this, has done this before.
Exactly, yeah. And that was actually going to be my very next question. In what will the future workplace look like, or what will the return to work look like for Cisco? I imagine you're already planning that, or you're thinking about that. Any thoughts on that one?
Because we're an engineering site in Galway, Brian, we've already been at this, it's called the Cisco phase 2 of return to office. So we have access to our building, but everybody is still at home, and obviously following governmental guidelines that we remain at home. But for the collaboration, for the brainstorming, for the whiteboarding that engineers need to do, we have brought small groups back on site, you know, worked with our facilities team to ensure everybody's spaced out carefully, and that every protocol is met. But, you know, you have to wear a face mask. You know, you have to have that distance. So it was great to see their colleagues. And I again got all their feedback, because that's what's really empowering, is feedback, to understand, how did you get on? Everyone said, great to see everyone, but it's very difficult to work with the face mask on, with the social distancing, you know, not able to see people's reactions. Now video is outdoing in person, because you can see someone smile, you can see somebody agree, you can see somebody, you know, don't know. Face mask on, you don't know what they're saying, you don't know what they're thinking. So we started that, and we're now looking at, as I said, a pilot on the future of work, getting the feedback. A lot of our engineers now will be brought into different focus groups or workshops to understand where and how it'll happen, because it's not going to be one size fits all. And we, you know, even on a call I was on this morning, our office in Dublin is salespeople. They're on the road a lot. They come into the office maybe once a week. Up until COVID, we were 75% occupied at all times in our office, because our engineers really enjoyed coming to office, but they really worked well coming to office. So there's a lot of challenges, and it's not something that will be fixed overnight. But, you know, in true Cisco form, they're already on it, you know, and Galway is being looked at as a pilot for the future for work and how that will operate. So time will tell how we'll be doing this, you know.
Time will tell indeed. Well, the best of luck with all of that. It certainly has many challenges, but time and a lot of planning will, I'm sure you'll make the right decisions.
Yeah, and feedback from your employees.
Absolutely. I mean, and it sounds like you're really doing that with all the surveys. Yeah. So that's absolutely the right way to go about it.
And I think, you know, back to the great place to work, you know, senior leadership making decisions for people, and especially now, is not fair. You have to empower everybody. It's a family. We all have an opinion, and everybody's opinion is valued. And everybody's feeling, I think with COVID, everybody's opinion, nobody can, you know, shove their opinions on you. You have to listen and appreciate, this is where I'm coming from, and this is where you're coming from. And I think that's what we've achieved, and we want to continue to achieve that. There's an open door policy on opinions, you know.
How are you finding it from an individual perspective? How are you finding, you know, managing your own well-being, your own kind of routine as you work from home?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, Brian, I live on my own. I don't have my own family. I have a fantastic extended family. I have brothers living in Dublin, and I have a family in Galway as well. But it's been challenging, and I have to say, I'm very grateful for my experiences, my own personal experiences. Life, I lost my mother through depression, Brian. So I know what it's like for somebody to live in a tough world mentally, and I've seen it as a young child. And knowing that, and I often say this in the most probably contradictory way, I learned by my mother's misfortune. I've learned how easy it is to get into that world of depression, how a trauma in someone's life can affect them. And I very much empower myself with, you know, I love my glass of wine. I love my nights out. I love indulging in food. I love to cook, but I also know I love to exercise. And that doesn't mean I'm not a marathon runner. I'm certainly not a triathlon runner. But I am definitely somebody to get out there and walk, you know, mindfulness, practicing gratitude, connecting with people. At the beginning of COVID, I did virtual walk and talks. I made sure every other day that I pinged one of my girlfriends or one of my nieces or one of my brothers, said, right, you get out, walk, I'll walk, and we'll talk together. And you know, it created a camaraderie, and it just morphed into something that was happening every week. Obviously then the cocooners, I was supporting them. That helped me because my own parents have passed away. So, you know, I think I've thought of my father so much. I'm so glad I didn't lose him in the middle of COVID. I think funerals must have been the hardest part of all of this, because for me, my dad was lucky enough to get to 91 years of age. We celebrated his life at his funeral. I see now people don't get that opportunity. It's so restricted, you know. So it's gratitude that has kept me going, and also perspective. And I think we're all doing a little bit of that. I think some people just sometimes don't practice it enough to help them, and it causes a lot of anxiety for them, you know, and they run away with their thoughts. And as I said, I'm very proud to have had my mother's experience, and I know that sounds ridiculous, but her experience has helped me grow with my own mental health, because I think that's what triggers your view on life, your view on your diet, your view on your exercise, and the important things. So I'm very lucky, Brian, and thanks for asking me that question. I feel very lucky that even though I'm on my own, and I think loneliness is probably a huge part of COVID for a lot of people, I have always ensured I've had a network of friends. I've always ensured I've had a demographic of people, not just my own age. I have friends who are much older than me, and I have friends who are much younger than me, just to give me a broad spectrum of how people are thinking, you know, and not be tunnel visioned into one way of thinking.
Well, thanks so much for sharing that, Sheila. That was you know, lovely and poignant as well. You know, your experiences with your mum and your dad, and it is really fitting to share that. This is in October. It's the Green Ribbon Month, the Sea Change, a wonderful campaign, and it delayed from May. So it's lovely to be able to mention that as well. And I'd encourage everyone to wear their green ribbon and to have that conversation about mental health. And as you said, like that, yes, it's okay not to be okay. And if you have you know, what sounds like a really open workplace that Cisco is, and with someone like you working there as a site engagement leader, I mean, I think it sounds like it's a very safe space to have those conversations. So thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Not at all. It's actually it's enjoyable to talk about it, because I talk about it with such pride, which I know does not make any sense, you know, to talk about pride with mental health, but I am proud because I was given the opportunity to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. You should be. Yeah, and it's great that you can share that wisdom with others as well. So really happy to do that on the podcast today.
Great.
Thanks so much for that, Sheila. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah,
For anyone that wants to maybe catch up with yourself to find out more about you and the work you do, where could they go?
My LinkedIn profile is probably where I share a lot, especially a lot of the engagement stuff, because I've done a lot of phone calls with other companies. I suppose the one thing I love about Galway and the Information Technology Association of Galway, ITAG, we have phenomenal members within that. And we always work together. We're not working in silos. We're sharing knowledge. You know, as I said earlier in the call, all multinationals are phenomenal employees. They're phenomenal benefits, you know, but it's actually the Irish people that are driving a lot of the local initiatives. So my LinkedIn is where I would put up a lot of the virtual stuff we've been doing, the engaging stuff we've been doing. It's probably the easy. I am on Twitter, I am on Instagram, but LinkedIn is probably more my professional profile, where you'll see. And I'm very happy to share, as I said, you know, anything to share and help promote positive well-being in life, in Ireland especially, is something I'm very proud to do.
Well, thanks so much. We'll be sure I'll link to your LinkedIn profile in the show notes. You're a fantastic ambassador for not just Cisco, but for Galway as well. So thank you so much for your time, Sheila.
Not at all, Brian. It was a pleasure. Lovely chatting with you.
Take care.